Hey everyone, welcome to the Ajay and Nathan Discuss Movies portion of this podcast. Hopefully we're all doing well. It's been some time since we last talked to you, but today, as the title would suggest, we're here to discuss a movie from the blast of the past, which is a new movie.
Sam Raimi's Evil Dead and Army of Darkness.
Yeah, we really do value original movies here and not comic book movies at all.
No.
So we're here to discuss Army of Darkness and Evil Dead. But
Yes.
those are the movies that we have of Sam Raimi's. So
These are the only two Sam Raimi movies I own, unfortunately.
yeah, unfortunately, we wish we had the Sam Raimi trilogy in the 2000s, but unfortunately we don't.
No, I don't.
And
know.
obviously
Sorry.
that trilogy is Noah. That's the trilogy. Is Noah.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man,
We're
yeah,
here
yeah.
to talk about Spider-Man.
We're here to discuss Spider-Man. Sam Raimi's film from 2002. Obviously, we could have discussed the entire trilogy, and we could if we wanted to. But there's just so much to unpack with just that one movie alone that I think it deserves its own justice to discuss that movie for now. And then maybe eventually we can discuss 2 and 3. As we all know, 2 and 3. I would say 2. People can say is the better movie out of the 3 movies that were released in the 2000s. But
I would agree to that.
I would agree with that as well. But I think all of the films that Sam Raimi released in terms of Spider-Man were good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even Spider-Man 3, which
Even
a lot
Spider-Man
of
3.
people tend to say is the least liked or the worst one out of the 3. I still find some positives in that movie.
It's the weakest of the 3, but I don't think that means it's a bad movie. I think it's still pretty good, just not as good as the others, and that has to do with studio meddling, which that's an entire conversation itself.
I think if you look at Spider-Man 3, and obviously we're going to delve deep into the first film, but if you look at Spider-Man 3, if you don't look at it as like a superhero movie, but as like a relationship movie, I think it can work out well. But that's just my opinion. But anyways, we are here to discuss Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1. 2002,
Spider-Man
released in 2002.
Yeah.
Now, it was recently released in AMC Theaters for 1 week only for $5 a ticket.
Nice. Ooh.
Now, a lot of people are saying, okay, well, is Sony releasing this in movies to make some money back from the Madam Web failure? Who knows?
Probably.
But we're going to cash in on this cow train because, I mean, apparently Spider-Man 2 this past week made $1 million alone in the box office on one day, on one single day, and made $1 million.
Nice.
Now, does that show that Hollywood is bankrupt creatively?
Yes.
Maybe. But that doesn't mean the audience doesn't know a good film from a bad film.
Yeah.
Because if people are paying that much money to see Spider-Man 2 in the year 2024, 20 years after its original release, that means they value great movies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or as we hope they value good movies.
I think it's because just even with people disliking the third one across the board, all these movies they hold a special place in everyone's hearts.
And that's what matters.
And that's what really matters.
So we're here to discuss Spider-Man 2002. Obviously, do we need to really recap the film, or like not recap the film, but give like a synopsis of the film?
I guess just for the sake of it, for whoever might not know, Spider-Man is about a young boy named Peter Parker who is bitten by a radioactive spider, and it gives him superpowers, and with these superpowers, he becomes the superhero Spider-Man. There we go.
Yeah, but there's more to it.
There's
we
more
see
to
the
it.
rise of Norman Osborn as the Green
The
Goblin.
Green Goblin.
Relationship issues with not only him and Mary Jane Watson, but also with him and Uncle Ben and Aunt May. Relationship issues through that end. Relationship issues of him and Norman's son Harry Osborn at the end of the film,
yeah.
where he wants to avenge Spider-Man's death. Obviously, spoiler alert, but.
Spoiler for the movie.
It's been
that's
22 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. This film could go to college and legally drink. That's how old this film is. But it's a very action-packed film with lots of emotion and integrity, and a director who had a lot of love for the source material, but also had his own vision as well.
Yeah.
And I think that is the best way to summarize this film. Obviously, heading into this film, these actors, they were not new in any way, shape, or form. We've seen actors who are in this film. Obviously, if you look at the cast, who was in this cast?
Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Willem Dafoe. That's the main
Cliff
four.
Robertson, Rosemary Harris, these are the individuals that were also in the film as well. And all these actors have been in other films previously. Before Spider-Man in 2002, before that was released, there were other films that these actors were in.
Yeah.
If you look at Tobey Maguire, he was in Pleasantville. If you look at Kirsten Dunst, I think she was in a Sofia Coppola movie before this.
Yeah, what was that? Marie Antoinette and then Virgin Suicides. I think those were both before Spider-Man, right?
Maybe one. I think Marie Antoinette was released after Spider-Man, but maybe Virgin Suicides was...
Virgin Suicides was definitely before, I think.
But even, James Franco, he was in Freaks and Geeks. And obviously the whole ensemble cast was essentially recruited by Sam Raimi and Sony. And Sam Raimi, as we mentioned before, Nathan, released some great films as well. Evil Dead 1 and 2, Army of Darkness, Darkman, which I think
Darkman, very underrated.
Kind of got Sony to be looking at him and say, hey, that could be a good guy to film, to direct Spider-Man. Army of Darkness, Darkman. There are other films of Sam Raimi's that come to mind. What are some other films of his before he released Spider-Man that...
Before he released Spider-Man? Dang. There might be a gap in my film knowledge because I don't read, because all I know is Evil Dead movies, Darkman. He had a Western called The Quick and the Dead. I think that was also 90s, I think. Yeah, Western, Quick and the Dead. But beyond that, I think I can't think of anything else. I think it might just lead right into Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, so overall, that's like a brief overview as to what this of the cast and the director in terms of this film. And again, Nathan, how did you feel about this film? Because now that we got all the backstory away and we discussed the directors and cast that were surrounding this film, Nathan, how do you feel about this film 22 years after its initial release? Do you still like it?
Maybe I'm biased, but I think it still absolutely holds up. Absolutely. As I was watching it, I'm like, there's a reason these movies like still have staying power today. These are bona fide, especially this first one, bona fide like classics. Like I was thinking like this is a movie that's like you can watch like hundreds of years later and it's still gonna have an effect. I was thinking like it's timeless. It's like a Wizard of Oz situation. Like this right here is just, I hate saying this word, but cinema. This movie is cinema. I hate saying that word because it's so pretentious, but no, yeah, this is a classic movie. It has staying power. It's timeless. It still holds up. I could nitpick small things, but I don't want to because the entire movie just is so overwhelmingly made with passion and competence that it overshadows any minor details that I might have picked up during this recent rewatch. Yeah, no, it still hits.
I think passion was the best word that you used, because when you see Sam Raimi's passion for Spider-Man, not only just Peter Parker and Spider-Man, but just the revolving characters around this film, there's just so much within the few minutes of screen time that you see from whether it's Harry Osborn or Aunt May or Uncle Ben. You see the heart of these characters bleeding from the screen. And I think that that's what Sam Raimi does the best. And obviously, kudos to Kirsten Dunst, kudos to Tobey Maguire, James Franco. I know James Franco has been in some tough water, some muddy water recently.
Yeah.
But Cliff Robertson, Rosemary Harris, they did amazing in this film. And I think it's because of Sam Raimi's vision that allowed these characters to really hold on. And I mean, it's a classic, I mean, as cringy as it may sound, as dumb as corny as it may be, this is our generation's, Alien, This is our generation Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is our generation Citizen Kane, Casablanca. I mean, I know it sounds corny. I know it sounds contrived. I know that a lot of cinema snobs out there may be like, oh, these two like comic book movies. I thought they hated comic book movies. You know, we don't hate comic book movies. I want to be very clear here. This is not an anti-comic book movie crowd. We like comic book movies. We just like it when it's done with love to the source material, if not even just love for the source material, but just done in a competent way where it's not just some existing IP just slapped onto a film with a runtime of an hour and a half, 2 hours just to sell toys to kids.
Yeah, no, the movie doesn't exist just to like facilitate 9 other movies and then a team up movie another year later. It exists as its own story with a beginning, middle, and end, and it exists to let you live with these characters and let you live with the adventure that they go on.
I think it's important to also state around this time in 2002 where cinema was at, or where movies were at this time, especially with comic movies, because around this time you had comic movies that were not doing rather that well in the box office. Obviously, there was X-Men, the 2000 film X-Men, which showed that comic movies could make some money in the box office and could make future films in the future or off of that franchise. But before then, you had Batman and Robin. Even a year afterwards, you had Daredevil. So around this time, comic book movies were a little hesitant. So I feel like in a lot of ways, this film gave the director some leeway and some creative control with this movie. And unfortunately, as we see in today's world, in the MCU or DCEU, the directors are given very limited amount of time and control over their movies.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier when we were talking, I think you were talking about passion, and you were saying like it could be cheesy, and like a common criticism I see for the very first Spider-Man and just the Sam Raimi movies across the board is that they're too cheesy, they're too corny, and just like that means they age poorly. But me personally, I like the cheese. I like the corn.
I don't know what that means. How can you watch the recent Spider-Man movies and consider this one to be cheesy or corny? Like, that's the thing that I don't understand about people that are critics of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films, is that like if you watch like the recent Spider-Man movies, they're just ripping off Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They're just ripping off other John Hughes movies that deal with teenage adolescents. Yeah. With this film, at least there's heart to it. At least and when it comes to corny or cheesy, I mean, if you watch that final scene between Green Goblin and Spider-Man, there's nothing corny about it.
No, it's fantastic.
I mean, one of the lines that stick out to me, and I'm gonna the tears are coming out soon.
Ooh, nice.
No, they're not. I'm a man. No, one of the most iconic lines from this film was when Green Goblin went after Spider-Man. And there was some dialogue that Green Goblin said or Norman Osborn said to Peter, and Peter's like, "No, I had a dad. His name was Ben Parker."
Yeah. Oh, that little. He's like, "Peter, you've always been like a son to me.
Yeah.
I've been like a father to you." And he's like, "I had a father. His name was Ben Parker."
That scene was that line really hits by the end of this film.
Yeah. No.
There's nothing corny or cheesy about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing like if this was in the MCU, they would follow that with like a fart quip. Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds would come in and fart on and be like, "Oh, this is corny, huh? I can't believe Sony would allow this in their own films." That's what Ryan Reynolds would do.
Yeah, no,
That's what an incompetent director would do.
They just seem so turned off by Sam Raimi's over the top, kind of like in your face style, and it's like that's the stuff that endears me more towards the movie, because if you take away those elements, you're left with the normal cookie cutter superhero movie where they're just turning to the camera every second saying, "That happened."
And that's what makes a bad movie. And that's what makes movies that don't stick around. That's what makes the modern day MCU films age horrendously. I mean, you can't. I mean, for me, I don't know about you, but when I watch like the modern day MCU movies, they all bleed into one another.
They do, yeah. And I guess that is part of like what they're trying to do. Just like, oh, we have a big cohesive thing, and that's kind of cool, but it doesn't allow any of these movies any of them to breathe. Like as I was watching the first Spider-Man, so much time is given to the origin story, and that's some of the best stuff in the movie, is just the growth of Peter Parker into Spider-Man. And then you watch other superhero movies, and they're just all trying to emulate that feeling, but they can't reach it. They're trying to fly to the sun, but their wings are getting burned.
And if they do, it's difficult for them to not act as if they're borrowing from themes of this movie. Right? If you look at Spider-Man 2012, you had, Mark Webb, he's a good director. He directed 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah.
But
these are the Andrew Garfield ones.
The Andrew Garfield ones, which I don't necessarily hate, but while watching the first Spider-Man 2012 version, that is, they had such a difficult time to not include with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah. And
they tried to sort of tiptoe away from saying that word for word. So they would say, oh, if you had a responsibility to do something, then you had a moral obligation to do those things.
Yeah. It's a really weird wraparound way of saying that same sentence. He's like, you have a moral obligation to do those great things with your power. It's like, are you having a stroke? What are you saying, Uncle Ben?
You're just like, what's happening? You just say the line, all right? We know what you want to say. Okay. But yeah, overall, in the first, in the beginning of the film, not that we have to recap it, but in the beginning of the film, what happens? The first act of the film, what happens?
Yeah, first act is, I'm gonna look to my notes here, just
no worries.
I kind of took them as I was watching the movie, and I think from the very first, we get the opening kind of voiceover, and it's Peter Parker saying, he's like, do you want to know who I am? Do you really want to know? The story of my life is not for the faint of heart. And we kind of see it goes through the bus where it's like, he's like, it's all about a girl. We see Mary Jane. It cuts to her boyfriend Flash. He's like, I wish I could say that was me. Yeah. Cuts to the guy in front of him who's like an overweight guy eating a donut. It's like, I also wish I could say that was me, but no, this is me. Cuts to him chasing the bus.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And I think that's something that hit for me, is that I think other Spider-Man movies are missing, is that Peter Parker's a loser. He's a loser and no one likes him. There's nothing about him like Peter Parker the person that is cool. He's a little dweeb, and I feel like that's so, and I missed that feeling because it makes you relate to him more. He is 100% like the underdog, and especially like when he does become Spider-Man, that the kind of differences between like him as himself and him as Spider-Man, just like the way the world reacts to him, that's where all the meat is. And it made me realize just like that's what's missing for me from like a lot of like of the other Spider-Man movies and the other superhero movies, is like Peter Parker's a nerd who no one likes, but then everyone loves Spider-Man. But yeah, we get that opening. Everyone's bullying him. We get to their field trip.
And by the way, the tour guide, A+. I
love that actor.
That actor is so good. I mean, apparently he was only in 3 films. The Spider-Man movie, I think, was apparently the last movie he's ever been in.
Oh wow!
So I don't know if he's still alive, but if he is, Hollywood, please hire that actor. We'll put his face here, but please hire him. He's really good, and he delivers with only a very few amount of lines. So please hire him.
So when he goes up to James Franco, and he's like, "You talked through that woman's entire presentation," with such indignation. So good.
The next person who talks fails his class. I kid you not. But yeah, I mean, in that scene, we're introduced to Norman and Harry Osborn.
Yes.
And again, the reason as to why this film like sticks out and is so great is because all of these characters we have known in our own lives. You know, Peter Parker, a guy who's down and out, who's getting literally at his lowest of low. You know, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, I think does a better job at doing that because, you know, things happen in Spider-Man 2. A lot of things happen to Peter Parker in Spider-Man 2. But even with Harry Osborn, you know, a guy who's the son of a wealthy man, businessman that's trying to fight for the affection of his father. You know, these are all figures that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And I think that's what really sticks out in that first act of that film. Yeah. Is that the introduction of the characters makes you feel as if, oh, I know these characters, even with very limited amount of dialogue, despite just knowing about them.
Yeah, no, we meet Harry, we meet Norman, Willem Dafoe. So I'm going to save what I want to say about Willem Dafoe because it's going to be an entire thing. We meet Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson. Peter Parker's trying to take pictures of her for the school paper. And that's...
Obviously, we get the memes of Sam Raimi. I'm somewhat of a scientist myself.
We got it. I hate how every time Willem Dafoe was on screen, I could not stop myself from laughing.
Yeah, the memes pop out. I mean, every line of dialogue is iconic. And
I'm something of a scientist myself. Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, no. In that field trip, we get our inciting incident. Peter Parker is bitten by a... in the comics it's a radioactive spider, but that would just give him super cancer. So this time it's like genetically modified spiders. So he's bitten by that, and I put down this note because I love it. He goes home to Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and they're like, "Hey Peter, do you want a bite to eat?" And he says, "No thanks, I had a bite."
Yeah. I think he also was like, I'm kind of tired as well, and he just like remains unconscious and essentially goes to sleep.
Oh yeah, no, he passes out for like probably like 8-10 hours as the spider powers kind of take hold. And I think during this point is also when Norman Osborn starts experimenting himself with these performance enhancers that his company Oscorp is developing for the military.
And Oscorp is currently in a bidding war with Quest Aerospace to deliver those products to the U.S. military. And Oscorp, and I think the board is the people that work there are kind of like unsure as to whether or not they will be able to get the contract. Yeah, no,
everyone on the board is trying to like sell off the entire business, but Norman Osborn, because that's his company. Something that occurred to me on this rewatch is that Norman Osborn, but before he takes the Green Goblin serum, he's not like a terrible person. He's not a bad guy. He's not a great father, and he's kind of a dick, but he's not really a bad. He's just like this stressed out kind of workaholic. Who like, and everyone's trying to like come and like destroy his company, and that makes him upset. It's only after he takes the Green Goblin serum that like that evil part of him starts to come out, which is that's a parallel for our hero. Great power, great responsibility. Norman Osborn has power, he gains more, and he uses it for evil.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a guy that you can not relate to, but a guy that
you can understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we might jump around because obviously we don't want to like say everything that happens in the movie because it's been out for 22 years. But I do want to pick out some interesting things within that first act of the movie that I do want to pick out. Obviously, Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker saying "big change" when he looks down. Yeah. That's important. He gets bigger. In all fronts and accords.
Stronger.
He gets stronger. Yes, absolutely. And you can see the multifacetedness of Mary Jane's character. I think that was also... Because around this point in time, Mary Jane is coming from... Apparently, her next door neighbor.
Yeah, he's been her next door neighbor since they were like first graders.
Yeah, and she hears like yelling from her father, and like her father being like, "You're always a piece of shit. You're just like your mother," or something along the lines of that. And she's like, "I got to get to class." And you see, Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker following Kirsten Dunst or Mary Jane, and then all of a sudden, when Mary Jane's friends come out, she turns into that quirky, eccentric, bombshell. So I really like the way that Sam Raimi depicted Mary Jane Watson, not only in this film, but throughout the entire 3 films as well. And by the end of the 3rd film, you realize that she is the most complex character and the best developed character out of the entire cast. I feel as if that's the case.
Dang.
Do you feel as if that's the case?
I need to watch the 2nd and 3rd. But I did enjoy... I was watching it, and I remember, I don't know, when people talk about this movie, they're like, or just like any of the Spider-Man movies, they're like, oh, Mary Jane is terrible. I don't like Mary Jane. It's like, no, she's actually a really nice character. Like,
she's a complex individual.
Yeah, no, they all are. But like, yeah, no, she's complex. She has her own dreams and aspirations. Like, her entire life doesn't revolve around Spider-Man or anyone. She has her own dreams. She's trying to do what she wants to. And yeah, no, she has her own feelings and goals. She's a character. No, I really liked her, especially on this rewatch.
So by this point, Peter Parker is gaining his powers.
Yes.
He doesn't know the full extent of his powers, but he does know that like the spider bit him, and that because of that he's getting some powers. And the lunch table scene I really like.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. When she slips and he catches all the lunch items on her tray that fly into the air. That
156 takes.
150 a practical effect.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Loved it.
No CGI.
No, not at all. Just Tobey Maguire.
Imagine that. A scene in a superhero movie that doesn't require CGI.
Baffling.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
the newer MCU films have Spider-Man's costume all CGI'd out.
I know. I hate it. It's so disgusting whenever I see just like cartoon Spider-Man in these movies. It's like, please just give me a real suit.
So he gets into a fight with Flash Thompson.
Yes.
And that's when we realize that Peter Parker can essentially see things before they happen to him.
Yeah, he has a spider sense, if you will, almost a kind of precognition of when danger arises. No, I really love that fight. I really just love the entire sequence of him finding his powers. I took a note. It's like the sense of wonder, the sense of discovery that not only the audience has, but Peter Parker has. When he's doing all these flips, he's shooting the webs. I think one of my favorite scenes in any movie ever is when he's trying to shoot the webs for the first time, and he just like throws out just like a couple different just like hand movements. Just like, that's what you want to see. You want to see just like this kid having the time of his life, discovering like what he can do.
So we can dance around this, right?
Yeah.
So I think by that point, I think Norman Osborn is realizing that he's losing power within Oscorp.
Yeah, I think it kind of lines up. He takes the performance-enhancing serum.
Yeah.
He has like a
science experiment gone wrong, which is obviously a trope, superhero trope
the
that
mad
we've seen.
Scientist.
Yeah.
Takes it, and like he has like his assistant who tries to like help him. He says this great line, "Back to formula," and kills his assistant.
Throws the assistant out of the glass with all the science equipment on him,
and he steals like the Oscorp like the Green Goblin suit and like the glider.
Yeah,
steals that, and then he goes to kill the general, right?
Yeah, he goes to
That's
Quest
what happens.
Aerospace, and I think he like just destroys the entire site of Quest Aerospace. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, no, that happens.
Yeah, that happens. So that's our introduction to Green Goblin. He realizes that he's lost power. I think also in this scene, or afterwards, a board of directors and trustees tell Norman that he's out.
Yeah, no, that they've decided to sell the company without his knowledge and that they expect a 30-day resignation from him.
You know how much I had to sacrifice?
No, you can't do this to
you
me.
You can't do this to me. You know how much I had to sacrifice? Such a great... I mean, his dialogue just pops out.
Willem Dafoe has never undersold a performance in his life.
He goes there. And I think... it's a comic book movie, so he knows that he has to be larger than life.
Yeah.
He knows that, like, yes, the film matters a lot, but also I gotta make sure that it's a little bit over the top, so that I can sell it.
It is like the perfect amount of exaggeration.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to see, like, people try and give, like, Oscar-worthy roles in superhero movies. Like, I find that to be very weird. I feel like you gotta realize that, like, yeah, be serious, kind of be tongue-in-cheek, but not to the point where it's like overbearing.
But like most of all, have fun.
Have fun.
Willem Dafoe is having the most fun I've seen anyone ever have in a movie. Even in like the newer Spider-Man movie, I think it was the third one when they brought him back. He chews up that scenery. He is the absolute best part of that movie. Like, he's not missed a step.
So Green Goblin happens, and we also see more drama between, Mary Jane's character, her family, and we see Tobey Maguire overhear it in the next room. So he goes outside, he throws it in the trash. I really like that scene a lot.
Yeah, they have a really nice conversation. They connect emotionally. Yeah. I think that's when she's asking him, like, what he wants to do when he leaves school. She opens up. She's like, I want to be an actress. I want to get out of here. He's like, that's amazing.
I cried like a baby when you played Cinderella.
Oh, that's a nice. I like that line.
I think at one point, like, she says, "You have great eyes" or something, or I didn't know you were so tall. And he's like, "I hunch." I don't know if it was in that scene.
It was that scene. Okay. I hunch.
Yeah, it's good. I like the delivery. I mean, it reminds you of high school in a lot of ways.
It does. Yeah. No, Tobey Maguire is. I love this Peter Parker. He's such a nerd. He's so naive and childish, but that's so perfect for the Spider-Man that you're building. And then that entire nice moment is ruined by Flash Thompson showing up in a very nice car.
But again, it shows you the acting range of Kirsten Dunst, and it shows you the complexity of Mary Jane's character.
Yeah.
Because as soon as Flash Thompson comes with his car, then she becomes the happy-go-lucky girl.
She turns into a bubbly teenage girl.
Yeah. So, and then because of that, we get that montage of Tobey Maguire looking up cars and trying to make up mock sketches for the Spider-Man costume. Which, by the way, Tobey Maguire or whoever made those costume
sketches.
Yes, like Peter Parker should be a drawer.
Yeah,
or an artist.
He could have gone to illustration. He's like trying to deliver pizzas. He's a photographer. Just like, dude, you got some good art skills.
Yeah, you got some good art skills. And that gives you into the wrestling scene.
Yeah. Oh,
which is so good.
My God.
One of the best parts in the entire film. I remember when I was a kid, I would go to the mall, and my dad would come with me. And I remember in the Bose store, this scene, the wrestling scene, would always play. It was either this scene or the Grinch scene, but like to me, like this takes me back to childhood a lot. This scene in particular takes me back to childhood.
It's so wonderful. You have the wrestling cage match. It's like survive 3 minutes in the cage with Bonesaw and win $3,000.
Nathan, to his credit, has a really good Bonesaw impression that he does in stand up. But if you want to do some
Bonesaw is ready.
Hey.
It was watching him up there. It was so good. Oh my God. And just Bruce Campbell is there.
The human spider. That's a terrible nickname.
That sucks, kid.
Yeah. I mean, the Bruce Campbell cameo, it's got to be in the movie.
It's a mainstay.
It's part of what makes a Raimi film is that Bruce. It's just seeing a Bruce Campbell cameo film or cameo in any Sam Raimi film is like worth the admission alone.
Oh, so good. He has the fight with Bonesaw.
It turns into a steel cage match, which never happens in wrestling. Like usually, like there's like a way to tell that there's a steel cage match, but out of the blue, it just happens.
Immediately, he flips onto the wall. He's like, "What are you doing up there?" It's like staying away from you.
That's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you? I included that in one of the reviews that we did. I think it was for Monkey Man, but at the end of it, I included that clip. I just love it. I mean, so when people say, "Oh, this Spider-Man wasn't quippy enough. He didn't have the jokes." No, there were jokes in the film.
No,
I mean, even later in the film, where between the fight between Green Goblin and Spidey at the Daily Bugle, he's like, "Hey, let Mom and Dad talk for a while." When J. Jonah Jameson was interrupting people.
Yeah, no, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man quips and makes jokes. It's just that Peter Parker's like a little nerd, and so they come off like a little nerd is like trying to roast you.
Yeah. So we see that he's able to finish off Bonesaw in 2 minutes.
But in 2 minutes.
He didn't make it to 3 minutes, and because of that, the bookie, the promoter, stiffs Peter Parker.
Only gives him $100, and I had a note for that.
Yeah.
I want to know for that. Another thing about this movie that I really like is it shows that being Spider-Man comes with sacrifice, and that the lives of Spider-Man and Peter Parker, they couldn't be more different. At the very end, once he defeats Bonesaw, they like raise his hands. Everyone in the crowd is screaming Spider-Man. You see this look on his face of just
they really like me.
Of pure elation. Yeah, no, he's for the first time in his life, people are shouting his name. They're like rooting for him, and then hard cut. He's in like the manager's like crappy office, and he's like, "You only get $100. 2 minutes. You were supposed to be in there for 3. You only get $100." Showing like that difference. Like,
but I need the money.
Spider-Man.
You missed the part where it's my problem. I love that. Like,
so
back
good.
and forth.
Spider-Man gets all the praise, but Peter Parker is the one who suffers, and that is so integral to all of these movies. And that also leads into Peter Parker walks out of the office. Someone walks in after him, robs the place. He runs out towards the elevator. They're yelling, "Stop that guy!" What does Peter Parker do? He moves out of the way. Lets the guy get away.
Yeah. And we missed the scene. I think we mentioned this in the preview to like what our overall discussion was. But that scene between Cliff Robertson and Tobey Maguire in that car,
pivotal,
which really set the entire thing up. Why did we forget that?
I know. I was thinking just like, oh, we're at the wrestling match already. What did we... Oh, my God, the Uncle Ben scene. I love that scene.
That scene was great.
The note I took for that scene was, damn, maybe I'm also an asshole to my dad sometimes.
Yeah.
Such a great scene because, God, you watch it. That's something everyone can relate to. Just like a back and forth conversation with your pop. And it's just like, you blow him off like any other day. But then for Peter Parker, what's those last moments, that little tiff where Uncle Ben is trying to give him some wisdom and Peter Parker blows him off? It's the last time he talks to him.
And I think that really plays a hand in like the emotional weight of that scene.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we see that he lets the guy go, and the guy that essentially stiffed him was like, "Hey, why didn't you do anything? You could have stopped him." And he's like, "You missed the part where that's my problem."
Throws it back in his face. Then he comes back. I don't know. How does this thing happen again? He's walking back to Uncle Ben's car, but Uncle Ben has been shot. At this point, Peter doesn't know that it's the guy he let go. Yeah. He just knows that Uncle Ben was shot during a carjacking, and like he hears the cop saying just like he's going down Manhattan Street or whatever, and that's when we get like the first real scene of Spider-Man like suiting up to go catch a criminal to swing around New York, and it's a fantastic car chase.
Great car chase.
So good.
And yeah, that scene when Peter finds out Uncle Ben was shot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how can you not shed a tear?
It hits. The emotions of this movie are really the greatest strength that it has. Everything about it is so good, but it's really just the emotion and the characters that carry the entire thing because they're all so strong.
And by this point, I do want to give a shout out to Danny Elfman.
Ooh, yeah.
I think that that's the guy that I think should be given a lot of credit as well, because his score. Is there any score from the Spider-Man mythos or films that can ever reach like even a percentile to that?
Of the iconography of that soundtrack.
That's that theme, that Spider-Man theme from this movie is so good. And it really ties in all together. And I think Danny Elfman should be given a lot of credit.
Yeah.
I know people mention Hans Zimmer and all that, but I thought this theme was great.
No, it's great.
It's visceral, it's primal, it's anthemic. And honestly, I think Danny Elfman's Batman theme is better than Hans Zimmer's Batman theme. I'll go out there and say that. That may be a controversial opinion.
No, that Tim Burton Batman theme is like that's the benchmark.
Tim Burton's?
Yeah. No. Well, Danny Elfman did it for the Tim Burton Batman.
That's what I mean. The Danny Elfman Batman theme, in my opinion, is the best Batman theme.
Oh, easily.
I think it's better than Hans. That might be controversial for some Hans Zimmer heads out there, but I personally prefer the Danny Elfman Batman theme.
No, it's fair.
But yeah, so the car chase scene happens. They go into like this abandoned home or house, and Spider-Man goes into the warehouse to see the guy that they're trying to chase after Uncle Ben.
Sam Raimi is flexing his horror muscles because he just can't help it.
Absolutely. This entire scene, while watching back, I was horrified.
No, because it paints Spider-Man as like the threat that he is. Like when he kind of just descends from the rafters real quick and just swings back up, it's like, so good.
And the best part of this entire sequence, no music was in it.
No music at all.
I know we just praised Danny Elfman. But I think that this scene benefited with just stakes, with nothing, with no sound whatsoever.
Yeah, just the natural noise of the confrontation. He's smashing the guy through like glass windows. He's pushing him onto like the boards and just like off the walls. Just like he's just silent the entire time as he's just like fighting this guy. And then when he gets him into the light, realizes this is the guy that Peter let go.
You get a great flashback in black and white to separate what's happening in the past or what's happening in the future or what's happening right now. And he sees that it's the guy who killed
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben that he let go. And I think by this point you see the guy who killed Uncle Ben sort of like point his gun at him. And he steps back or something along the lines of that.
Yeah. Peter grabs the gun, breaks the guy's wrist, and then the guy kind of like stumbles backwards out of the window and dies. And that's just like it's so that entire sequence, everything like the car scene, the wrestling match, the chase to this scene, it's like Peter Parker's first night of Spider-Man was pretty much encapsulated all of what Spider-Man is. He's like the highest highs and the lowest emotional lows.
Yeah, exactly. And I think by this point it's like the end of the first act of the film. And then what happens afterwards? Because then we see the introduction of the Daily Bugle.
Yeah.
We see the continuation of the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, as well.
I think there's this nice little montage of Spider-Man, of Peter Parker when he finally like puts on the legitimate, iconic Spider-Man suit, and we just see like a short montage of him throughout New York stopping just like little crimes. It's interspliced with like interviews of like New Yorkers.
Yeah.
So good. The art of the montage is like almost lost.
Very much so.
And it's so concise and it's so damn funny. Did you also notice Jim Norton?
Jim Norton. I was going to mention Jim Norton. Well, let's say the line together, all right? 3, 2, 1. He sucks and I don't like him. Boom. Such a great line by Jim Norton.
So good.
We're comedians, so we like Jim Norton.
It's so
Shout out to Jim Norton and his trans wife. We support Jim Norton.
Nice.
His wife is hot. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, she's no Hunter Schafer, but you know who could be.
Oh, don't get started.
We won't get started then.
But Yeah, no, this nice little montage. Lucy Lawless shows up, who's just in another like mainstay for Sam Raimi. She's like, guy with 6 arms, sounds hot. Just oh god, I could talk all day about just like those little vignettes. But yeah, no, that's Peter Parker taking on the role of Spider-Man completely.
And then, so we see the montage happen, and then do we also get a hard intro to J. Jonah Jameson by this point?
Yes, that's how it ends. He's like, hero, he's a menace.
And obviously, this is one of J.K. Simmons' best roles.
This is
best
the J.K. Simmons role.
And by the way, this is not like J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson in the newer Spider-Man films, where he's trying to like play this like Alex Jones-like character.
Yeah.
This is like an actual good performance. And honestly, like, what really kicked it all off for me to be on the J.K. Simmons love train. Yeah,
no, even like J. Jonah Jameson in the newer ones, he's just there just because you have to put him there. But like in this movie, kind of like Norman Osborn, he's like, you think of J. Jonah Jameson and you're like, he's like a hard ass. He's kind of like a piece of shit. He's not really. Like he's kind of a dick, but like he's charming. And like it's like when Peter is like, please, I need more money for the photos. He's like, I'll only give you 100. And he's like about to leave. He's like, no, sit down. 200. Just like, he's got a little soft spot. There's that scene later on where he like yells at Peter to get out of his office. Green Goblin comes in and he's like, who's taking the pictures of Spider-Man? He's like, I don't know. I don't know who has. It's like, this kid who like you'd assume he's annoyed by and hates, he's putting his neck out for him, which is very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's like a few lines in this by J. Jonah Jameson that's like amazing. If we can get Julia Roberts in a thong, we can surely get pictures of this guy.
He's constantly bullying Ted Raimi.
Yeah,
Sam Raimi's brother.
I saw it. I'm like, is that Sam Raimi? But it's his brother.
No, it's Ted Raimi, who's just like people who will always show up in a Sam Raimi movie are Bruce Campbell and then Ted Raimi.
Yeah, exactly. So then this happens. So that happens essentially. Yeah. With Peter Parker selling pictures of Spider-Man.
Pictures of Spider-Man to the Daily Bugle.
The Daily Bugle. And then right after that, what happens essentially? Because this is where like things get kind of hazy. Do they graduate? Is this around the time where like Midtown High graduates?
I think that might have been earlier.
Okay.
I don't think he suits up as Spider-Man until he's graduated. But yeah, he graduates, and just I don't know. That scene is also just very sad because he just goes home to an empty house and just him and his aunt.
I wish Uncle Ben was here to see this.
Yeah, no, they're just sad. But after that,
after the Daily Bugle scene, what happens? Do you remember?
I don't think I do.
Was it the Harry Osborn scene in which he tells Peter Parker that he's seeing Kirsten, he's seeing Mary Jane? Or is it the part where they're at the Times Square and they celebrate Human Equality Day?
Oh, yeah, there's the World Unity Day.
World Unity Day.
Yeah.
Basically just playing off of the Thanksgiving Day parade, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, no, okay. So, because it just gets murky.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, they graduate at some point. Oh, yeah, I think Peter sees Mary Jane Watson, like, working at the diner. He strikes up a conversation with her. She's like, I'm acting now. I'm working this job. And he's like, that's amazing.
And then Enrique comes out, says, you're short on your tab. The next time that happens, I'll take money out of your check.
Yeah.
And then
poor Mary Jane.
Mary Jane's like, yes, Enrique, I get you.
But, that's when she's like, oh, yeah, me and Harry are dating. And like Peter's just like, oh, he didn't tell me. And then I think from there we get the boardroom scene of Norman Osborn. And from there, yeah, because they mentioned just like it's just like we're gonna announce the merger at World Unity Day parade, and then I think we just hard cut to the big parade. Yeah. What could possibly go wrong? We get the Green Goblin come in.
Yeah, we see Peter Parker take pictures of Kirsten or Mary Jane and Harry Osborn, which sucks.
Up on the balcony, they're partying, having a great time. Every line that James Franco says as Harry Osborn is a line I can imagine James Franco
saying
himself saying. He's like, "Why didn't you wear the black dress? My dad loves black." And I think sometime after that scene, I have it in my notes. I specifically put this in my notes.
Mary Jane was wearing like an Asian garb. That's what I loved about this scene is that
like
it did not give a crap about cultural appropriation. They're like, we'll just get her in a kimura.
No, yeah, James Franco says a scene later on after she's been traumatized by Green Goblin. He's like, "I want to buy you something. It'll make you feel better."
What a romantic. What a romantic.
The most James Franco thing that could possibly be uttered.
So we see Norman come in as the Green Goblin just terrorize this World Unity Day festival.
Comes in just like there's smoke trailing off the glider as it comes in
and
from a distance.
This may be unpopular. I like the Green Goblin costume. I like it. A lot of people dislike it, but I like it for how stealthy it was. You gotta realize that this guy was a billionaire essentially. Well, very wealthy. Like he's not gonna come out there looking like a jackal.
Okay.
You know, like you realize you need to know that this guy has equipment.
Yeah, no.
This guy works with military contractors.
It basically is just like a military like stealth suit, and so is the glider. I don't hate it. But I know there is footage that they did of like an actual Green Goblin mask. And it was like this green face, big yellow eyes that could like articulate the movements. And just like I look at the costume here, I'm like, that's okay. But I would have liked to see basically like Green Goblin Deadite. Just like, I don't know. Maybe if you can find the footage.
But it is scary. He is a scary dude.
Willem Dafoe is just a scary man.
I don't know about that. We love you, Willem Dafoe.
We love you, Willem Dafoe.
If you're watching Willem Dafoe, which you probably aren't, you're bigger on. We would love to have you on the podcast. All right. I will literally clear off everything on my schedule if you want to come on this pod. So reach out to me. Instagram, Twitter is down below. I don't know if you use it, but by the way,
thank you,
to any of the cast, if you guys want to be on this pod, we will literally clear our schedule. Like Sam Raimi, if you're watching.
We'll take Ted if he's available too.
We'll take Ted. We'll take Bruce Campbell. I don't care.
I'll absolutely take Bruce Campbell. We can talk about the Evil Dead movies.
We will clear our schedule for you, okay?
If the actor who played the teacher for that one scene wants to come on the podcast, please.
We'll give you an IMDb credit. All right, we'll give you that. So we see the Green Goblin, and he's just terrorizing people.
Yeah, no.
He throws a smoke bomb. It disintegrates people. They're turned to skeletons. That scene was great. I love that scene.
I love that so much. When he like rises up onto like the balcony, he's like, "Hello, my dear,"
and then Mary Jane yells. I like it a lot.
Just so great. Such an iconic like first meeting. That first fight feels like you're reading a comic book. Even like the very end of it. Spider-Man like rips out the battery from the glider. It goes off flying, and he's
we'll meet again, Spider-Man.
It's like you can see that as like a big blurb at the end of like the final page of an issue of Spider-Man. It
saves
so
a kid
wonderful.
as well.
Yeah, it saves two people from rubble, saves a kid. There's a little Stan Lee cameo.
In there. But then we see him save Mary Jane. They'll meet again as Green Goblin said, and they go into this like sort of pasture where it's like not pasture but this like rooftop.
Yeah, this rooftop garden, and
she's like, you have a knack for saving. No, she doesn't say that. Not yet.
That's later.
Later. But so they have a back and forth. She's like, hey, who are you?
He's like, you know who I am. I do. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And then he leaps off the building.
And you just see him going, Yahoo!
He loves being Spider-Man, and you as the audience love to watch him as Spider-Man. He's having so much fun, and it's infectious.
It's so good, dude. This scene brings out so many memories.
It's just nothing but pure joy.
And then afterwards, after the scene unfolds and it happens, what occurs afterwards?
God.
Was it the Daily Bugle scene where they go to the Daily Bugle and Green Goblin burst in? like the Kool-Aid Man.
Yeah, he does just burst in through the wall. Yeah, no, Peter Parker is having... I will say this about the movie. I think past a certain point, scenes just...
blend in.
They lose a little flow. And they just kind of just start, like, just happening. It's like a Peter and Green Goblin meet, and then they kind of break away, do their own thing, and then they meet again, and they break away and do their own thing, and then they meet again, and they break away and do their own thing, and then they meet again, and that's basically the end of the movie. That's a little choppy, but again, my mind fixes it as this being just like, this is a comic book issue. It's like they're going to do their own thing, then there's going to be a big fight, and then they're going to split up again. But I think what we have after the parade, they go do their own things. I forget exactly what they are. But yeah, Green Goblin bursts in. He's like, I want to know who's taking pictures of Spider-Man. J. Jonah Jameson tries to cover for Peter Parker. Spider-Man shows up. And then...
they had to let mom and dad talk for a little while.
Yeah, no, it's Thwips, J. Jonah Jameson. That's fun. And then Green Goblin hits Spider-Man. Sleep.
I like that part so much.
So great.
And then Green Goblin gives him like the request that, hey, we can join together.
Yeah, no, I kind of like his logic. Just I don't agree with it. He's a villain, of course, but like I kind of like he's like, you know what? We could fight for years and years over and over again with hundreds and thousands in collateral damage. Do you want that, or do you want to join me? And it's like, woo, villain has an argument. I kind of like that. He's like, hey, let's team up, because otherwise we're gonna keep fighting and thousands are gonna die. I like that. I like that. Green Goblin's a really cool villain. I like him a lot.
So yeah, as you mentioned, the scenes do bleed together. So we'll just kind of fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's a burning building scene.
Yes, that's the next time they meet up.
Wouldn't be the last time we see a burning building scene in the Spider-Man trilogy.
Nope.
But a burning building scene happens, and obviously the cops are required. They've been advised to arrest Spider-Man.
To arrest Spider-Man, yeah.
But once he saves the first baby, he hears a second baby coming out, and cop says, "Are you going to come back?" And like sort of like hinting like, "Hey, can we arrest you again?" And Spider-Man's like, "No." Like
he's like, "Not coming back, officer.
Not coming back, officer." So he goes in there, and then we see another interaction between Green Goblin and Spider-Man.
He turns around. There's a funny little jump scare where he does like a stock lady scream into his face, and he's like, "Have you rejected my offer?" He said, "Oh my god." He says, Spider-Man says this is a great line. It's like, you're the one who's out, Gobby, out of your mind. It's so good.
And the reason as to why this scene really sticks out to me is that you really see the athleticism of Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, he does the
so many flips,
dodging, those like ninja stars that Goblin's throwing at him.
Like he does like a Neo Matrix scene where he like bends over.
Yeah.
And like you see both like ninja stars hit each other at once. Really good scene. I like that scene a lot.
Oh, but then that leads into, once they kind of disperse from this little
the
fight,
Thanksgiving scene.
They reconvene.
Yeah. And
both Norman and Peter are late to Thanksgiving because they were fighting each other.
And the one part of the scene that I really like a lot is that Norman Osborn is wearing Spider-Man's colors. Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker, is wearing Green Goblin's colors.
Oh wow!
So if you see the tie and the inside shirt within the suit, it's the colors of the hero and the villain.
Oh wow! Oh, I love
just a little bit of a tidbit.
Sam Raimi, you never cease to impress.
Yeah, and they obviously Norman Osborn finds out that Peter Parker is.
He finds out Spider-Man
because of the little rash on his
there's a cut
arm.
on his arm that's bleeding, and he just kind of puts it all together.
Yeah. And he leaves early. He leaves the dinner early. He tells his son Harry to just do what you want with her, and then
Poor kind of feel bad for Harry because he's like, Dad, I want you to meet Mary Jane Watson, and he's like, he's like being nice and friendly, but then when he realizes that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, he leaves the dinner. He's like, oh, but Dad, you came to meet my girlfriend. He's like, they're all beautiful, Harry, but eventually they'll all be after your trust fund. Do what you want to her and then dump her quick. Very Green Goblin line. And then Harry Osborn comes back in and says the James Franco line. And he's like, I'm lucky to be half the man he is. We skipped over a great Tobey Maguire line when he walks in late. And he's like, he's got the cranberry sauce.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I had to beat an old lady with a stick to get this.
Yeah. It's such a like a 50s, 60 or like that line could have been in the 50s or 60s. That's what I love about it.
Peter Parker, he's just a little kid. He's just a naive little dweeb, and that all reflects.
Yeah, you could hear that like line of dialogue from Henry Winkler in Happy Days.
Yeah, the Fonz.
Yeah, as the Fonz. Yeah,
I'm Spider-Man.
I had to beat it. Yeah, so that scene happens, and then we realize that Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, knows the identity of Peter Parker, and then decides to target the people that he truly loves.
Yes. Yeah, they do the throughout the entire movie, Willem Dafoe with the Green Goblin is doing like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. He's like talking to himself in the mirror. He's talking to the Green Goblin mask, and he's like, What do I do? Attack his heart, Norman.
The heart, Norman. We attack his heart.
And that leads him to attack Aunt May. Puts Aunt May in the hospital.
She's praying.
She's praying. She's like, deliver us, before she can say deliver us from from emails, deliver us from evil. Green Goblin breaks in. He's like, finish it, finish the prayer.
Yeah. And again, like that entire sequence was just very Sam Raimi-esque because it's a horror scene.
Yeah,
it's a jump scare, and there are several jump scares in this entire.
Oh
film.
Yeah, no, I think
even when Peter Parker wakes
sequence.
up, the dream sequence where like you just see Green Goblin pop up and just like scream, and then you see Tobey Maguire Peter Parker wake up when he was sleeping on top of Aunt May. Not sexually, obviously.
Sleeping like his head on like her hospital bed. Nothing weird in the Parker household.
Yeah, not any of that. But
just a boy shooting webs.
Exactly. So that scene happens, and then we see a very emotional scene between Mary Jane and Peter Parker.
Yeah, no, there's some nice. We slow down for a bit once Aunt May is in the hospital, and we get just like some nice character stuff between Aunt May and Peter and Mary Jane, and she's talking about like, I might be in love with someone else. It's Spider-Man. And then Peter has this look on his face where he's like simultaneously like, oh, it's not me, and he's like, no, wait, that is me. He has this nice conversation.
Did the kiss scene happen before or after the scene? Do you remember?
Oh, the under the upside down kiss.
Yeah.
I think that definitely happened before. I want to say, yeah.
Yeah, apparently Kirsten Dunst said in an interview that like that scene was like dreadful to like record because it wasn't as like romantic as it seemed on screen.
Probably not. On screen it looked very romantic.
It looked great.
That's a fantastic.
A Siskel and Ebert 2 thumbs up for that scene.
Great scene.
But so that happens. Harry sees it, and then Harry goes to Norman afterwards, and he's just like, she's in love with her.
With him.
Yeah, with him,
yeah. Yeah.
She's in love with her.
He's in love with Aunt May.
Okay.
No, okay.
Okay.
We're back.
All right. Okay. We got to regroup for a little bit. All right.
Okay.
So good. Harry Osborn says she's in love with him.
Yeah, no, he sees Mary Jane and Peter Parker. They share like a nice little moment, and Harry walks in, and it's like, my only thought during that scene was, Harry, the guy's aunt is in the hospital. She's just supporting him. Don't read too much into it, but he has to be a James Franco about it and jump to conclusions. And he's like, "You were right, Dad." And then Norman has he has a nice little moment where he's like, I haven't always been the best father to you, but I'm gonna change that. And it's like, oh, there's still like a nice kind of person inside of Norman Osborn, kind of sort of still there. It's just overshadowed by the Green Goblin. And then I think from there, is that when we get to the climax?
I assume so, yeah.
Yeah, no, we get we get a great line because I think Peter tries to call Mary Jane. She doesn't pick up. Instead, you hear Green Goblin. He's like, "Can Spider-Man come out to play?"
Yeah, and we see essentially Mary Jane waking up after being in a coma, after the sleep thing happened. I assume that happened.
Yeah.
So she wakes up and she realizes she's on top of like a bridge.
Golden Gate Bridge. Is that San Diego? San Francisco?
That's San Francisco. I think this is like I think this is like the Empire State Bridge or something. Not Empire State Bridge. No, it's not that. But it's a bridge in New York City.
Some bridge in New York.
Yeah,
New York's too damn big.
Too damn big. So some bridge in New York.
Yeah, and he's holding like Mary Jane off the side. He's holding like a cable car of like, what is it? Girl Scouts?
Yeah.
And he's like, now you have to choose. Oh, God, another great line that I wish I had written down, but I'm going to try to paraphrase him.
Then choose.
He's like, you never know when a lunatic is going to come along and give you a sadistic choice.
Yeah.
And he's like, choose to save Mary Jane or the little children. And
one of my favorite shots in this entire film, so many great shots in this film, but you see Spider-Man's mask, and on one side it's the Girl Scouts falling,
it's the cable car falling,
and the other side it's Mary Jane. Such a great shot.
So good.
The framing of everything is just chef's kiss.
Yeah, no, and then he runs for Mary Jane, catches her. He's able to thwip and catch the cable car, hold them both together.
Green Goblin tries to interfere, gets him off his game.
Yeah.
And then you see all the locals from New York being throwing stuff at Green Goblin.
Uncharacteristic moment of New Yorkers
New
doing
Yorkers
something for the common good.
Unifying with one another and
Impossible.
Setting aside their differences to help out the common good of humanity. Barbaric. I don't know about this New York.
I can accept a man being a spider, but New Yorkers being nice, that's where I draw the line.
You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
There's the guys like with the boat on the barge, and they're just like, we'll come, we'll set up the barge so you can drop the cable car.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's nice. New York's always trying to help.
Yeah. So Spidey saves the day, saves Mary Jane, saves the kids, and then they get teleported. Not teleported, but they go into this graveyard.
Yeah, for a final fight. I think the music cuts out of this scene too.
That's why
Spider-Man's just getting his ass beat.
And I assume if you're a kid while watching, we were only like 3 years old when this movie came out. So we weren't in the theater. So if we were, we don't remember it. No. I remember I was in the theater with my mom while watching Spider-Man 3, which obviously is a great memory to have. But I assume if you're a kid, this is like got to be like the most horror you've ever experienced while watching.
Oh my God, no! It is brutal for the movie because he's just getting the shit kicked out of him. Consistently.
Green Goblin throws a bomb at Spider-Man. Half his face, half his mask gets ripped to shreds. That slow-mo scene of him just like. That was great.
All the punches hitting, and then finally he's like, her death would have been quick, but now it'll be slow and painful. And that kind of pushes Peter to like use his full strength, and he beats Goblin into submission, and that's when Goblin takes off his helmet. He's like, Peter,
before
wait,
that part, I do like the MJ and I are gonna have a hell of a time. I like that line a lot. I don't know why.
Yeah. All of Willem Dafoe's lines are gold.
So they have the final emotional, final word scene.
Yeah, no, we talked about when we started the back and forth where he's like, you've always been like a son to me. Let me be a father to you. And Peter Parker says, I had a father. His name was Ben Parker.
And that's when the tears start rolling.
That's when it starts rolling, but not for Goblin, because he's like, Godspeed, Spider-Man. He hits the button to send his glider to stab Spider-Man. He
gets impaled by his own glider.
Flips it. There's that.
Or as Harry Osborn's assistant would say, Gilder. There was apparently a bunch of bloopers and deleted scenes from Spider-Man 3 where Harry Osborn's assistant didn't know how to say glider. Like, the actor behind the assistant couldn't say glider, so he would always, he was impaled by his own gilder.
The blade that pierced his body came from his gilder.
Okay, his glider, that's right, glider. That's right. All right, here we go again. Okay.
The blade that pierced his heart.
That's all right. All right, Johnny, you're doing great.
Boy.
You love getting the laughs in dailies. Okay, here we go now.
The blade that pierced his body came from your glider.
No, his glider.
The blade that pierced his body came from his trailer.
He was impaled by his own gleamer. I think we'll add in a clip.
Gleamer.
I don't know if he's like gleamer, but yeah, so that happens. He gets impaled. And great Sam Raimi, very Sam Raimi-ism. Before he gets impaled, he goes, oh.
just as a matter of factly, as he's about to be stabbed, the editing goes so fast. It's like glider coming, goblin's about to get hit, close up, and he's just, stabbed.
Gets stabbed.
So perfect.
Starts to, whine and moan and all that. And then before he dies, he gives one last word.
Last request to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Don't tell Harry, and then dies.
And then Peter Parker takes Norman Osborn back into Osborn Manor. Osborn Mansion, or Osborn high-rise apartment. And Harry Osborn brings out a gun and says, "What do you want?" Or what are you doing?
And then from that point forward, he's under the speculation that Spider-Man murdered his dad. And then, we kind of start to wrap up the movie. They have the funeral for Norman Osborn. We have
Harry Osborn saying Spider-Man will pay.
Yeah, that leads into number 2. And then we get... I really love the scene between Mary Jane and Peter Parker where I think
everyone loves that scene.
It's so good because she just lays out everything for him, everything she's been feeling, and she's like, I'm ready to have this with you, Peter Parker. I love you, but he can't do it. The call of Spider-Man. He's like, I love you as a friend. I felt like I got punched in the teeth. Spider-Man, no!
What a friend zone by Peter right there, dude. We've all,
Oh, God. And then he walks.
And then we see Peter Parker walk, and he has that final monologue.
He's like, who am I? I'm Spider-Man.
This is my gift, my curse. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man. And that final shot of that final sequence of Spider-Man just swinging through New York City
as the music swells.
Yeah, and you see him near that U.S. flag because obviously this happened after 9/11, so you got to include the patriotism in it. And roll credits. That's the end of the movie. And that entire scene was just beautiful. I really wish, obviously it's right for him to say I'm Spider-Man, but I remember a few years ago, I thought it would be so cool if he said, "This is my gift, this is my curse. Who am I? I'm Ben Parker's son."
Oh, that's
nice. I thought it'd be nice. I mean, that's kind of like
nice.
fan fiction, but
this is a fan fiction, but no, it's kind of nice. But I mean, he already said that. He said that earlier.
Yeah,
as if he's gonna be flying around New York with a big BP on his suit, I'm Ben Parker's kid.
So that's the end of the film.
That's Spider-Man 1.
Why does this film still resonate with people 22 years later? I mean, obviously, we discussed this for over an hour and 12 minutes.
Nice. Nice. The editing's going to be sick.
The editing's going to be kind of a chore. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be... I wonder who's going to edit this film or this review. But it's going to be a chore. It's going to be a chore. But 22 years later... It's being shown in AMC's for 1 week. $5 a ticket, by the way.
Nice.
A steal. Why does this film still generate so much love and fanfare after 3,000 Spider-Man films since the release? Why does this film in particular, and just this trilogy in particular, carry so much weight?
I think it's due to a lot of the hard work and the passion. Sam Raimi loves these characters, and he loves this world that they live in, and it's just his energy and the energy of the entire cast and their charm that I think has just kept this movie alive. It's the blueprint for like most other superhero movies. All other superhero movies are trying to like chase this high, but very, very few of them have even come close to reaching like a fraction of it. It's just the filmmaking's on top, the writing is on top, the performances, they're all wonderful. Everyone in this cast, like, there's a reason people are like, you can't recast J. Jonah Jameson, because any other actor, unfortunately, would pale in comparison.
Absolutely. Everything about this film is great. Even the flaws in this film.
Yeah.
Well, there are flaws in this film.
There are flaws. We talked about the pace gets a little murky.
But even with its flaws, it makes it still such a great movie to watch on repeat. And I think a lot of it deals with, as you said, the director, the acting, and the fact that no other director since then can even hold a candle to the Sam Raimi's vision for this character. I mean,
Yeah.
I sent you a text a few days ago of Sam Raimi and, you know, the possibility of there being Spider-Man 4. And he said something along the lines of,
Yeah, no, he talked about like what he'd want to do for that, what villains or something he'd want, and he just said something along the lines of like, I'd want my villain to be like a manifestation of like a struggle in Peter Parker's life, and the fight with this villain to be like the fight like against this struggle that he's going through.
I think if we were to make a fourth Spider-Man film, we'd probably have to figure out the journey that Tobey Maguire's character would be going on and what obstacles he had to overcome to achieve that growth personally. And I hope that the villain would be chosen based on a representation of that obstacle.
I'll say it. The villain should be a physical representation of the obstacles he's facing in his personal growth. And yeah, as the tweet said, he gets it, man. He just gets it.
He gets it. He understands like how to build these characters, kind of like the emotional core of all of them. That's the most important takeaway for me, is that the emotion is there. You care for these characters. The movie shows great empathy towards its heroes, its villains. Everyone involved has their moment to shine.
Yeah, very true, very true. And I mean, there's one more week until there's no more Spider-Man films in theaters. Apparently next week is Spider-Man 3, so I'm excited to watch that. I mean, again, there's Creed's Hero was in this song at the end for the credits. Do you know that song? Do you remember that? A hero will say.
I'm not familiar. I can't say. I'm sure I'll remember if I hear it.
Yeah, but this for Spider-Man 3, it's Snow Patrol it's Signal Fire by Snow Patrol. So I'm excited to hear that again on the theaters. But I'm excited to see Spider-Man 3 in theaters if that does happen, if I do get the chance to, because again, the fan reactions for this film. Did you see the fan reactions for Spider-Man 2002 on YouTube?
Oh no, I haven't.
It's so great. You see a bunch of people as soon as Spider-Man's going through NYC at the end of the film. So many people are clapping, applauding. It's great. The fan reactions are great. I mean, it's better than, I want to watch this film in theaters again.
Yeah.
I want to watch Spider-Man 3. I want to make that a priority. Watch Spider-Man 3 because, again, like, there are certain times you watch movies in theaters where you're just like, why are people reacting this way?
Yeah.
Like The Room. The Room's a nice room, a nice film, It's perfectly imperfect, It's a great movie to make fun of, to make fun with, but all the times you see the screenings of it, and I feel as if a lot of times audience members there that are watching The Room, they just use it as an excuse to be a dick.
Yeah.
Throwing
that is
spoons
fair.
against the theater, being like, I feel so bad for movie theater employees that have to like clean up after people that watch The Room. I really do feel bad for them.
Oof.
Thankfully, the audience reactions for these films are better.
No
one
one's shooting webs at the screen.
Yeah, no one's throwing spoons. No one's, saying "I hunch" in unison. You see a bunch of, people that haven't aged since 2002 still wearing, shirts from 2002 being like, I hunch. You know?
God, that would be the ideal experience.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see Spider-Man 3 in theaters. But yeah, that's the end of our discussion for Spider-Man. We were going to talk about all 3 films today, but I mean, if you look at the time, how much we discussed this film, it's a lot.
Yeah,
an hour and 17.
Oh yeah, we had a lot to say.
We had a lot to say. Obviously, if you're a fan of Spider-Man 2002, let us know in the comments below. Leave your thoughts. Leave your discussions. Leave your comments down below. We really do want to hear from you. But yeah, overall, that is our topic. You know, I know it's no Deadpool and Wolverine. You know, it's not us giving our reactions to Deadpool and Wolverine. But well, let's watch Deadpool and Wolverine. You know,
let's pull the clip.
All right, let's pull it up. Let's pull it up. Let's watch it together. Let's watch it together.
It.
All right.
Okay.
All right. All right. We're watching. All right. This is our initial reaction. We didn't watch it before, right? We didn't watch it before.
I have no idea what this is. I'm surprised.
So we will watch it right now, and you know, we will make sure that we watch it. Oh!
Whoa!
Oh!
Wow!
Oh no!
Oh my God!
Oh
what?
God!
Oh whoa!
All right.
They brought him back? Wow!
Yeah. So that's our reaction to the film or to the trailer. Yeah.
Great trailer.
Great trailer. We can't wait for it. All right, that's our review for Spider-Man 2002. I don't know if we'll have other, you know, if we'll review Spider-Man 2 and 3.
Nah, we can.
We can.
We can.
I mean, overall thoughts, I like Spider-Man 3. We like Spider-Man 3.
This is Spider-Man 3.
Good film. Spider-Man 2, amazing film. Spider-Man 2, and between Spider-Man 2 and 3. Those are our thoughts on that. But anyways, hopefully we get more films like this in the future. We can only hope.
We can only hope Sam Raimi makes more movies. I hope he does.
All right. And don't, in MCU, if you get Sam Raimi to direct your film, don't pull this, you know, multiverse of madness where you give Sam Raimi a little leeway and then put in your own scenes for the fight scenes. Like, don't make yourselves be the ghost director for Sam Raimi.
Let the man cook.
Let him cook. Let Sam Raimi cook, and you'll get a good movie. And yeah, that's our thoughts on the movie. So, all right, bye. Peace.
It's the power of Spider-Man in the palm of your hand. Now you can be the ultimate web slinger with the new Spider-Man Web Blaster on a mission to blast the Green Goblin.
Battery low.
Evil is no match for you. Enter Spider-Man Web Blaster. The Spider-Man Web Blaster comes with 2 cans of web fluid and also shoots water.